This is Mission Control Houston. 100 days, 11 hours, and 52 minutes into the 36th expedition to the International Space Station. This morning, the space station is flying in good shape, about 261 miles above Central Asia, now in orbit near the Russia-Mongolia border, on a course that will give it an overflight of China and move out above the Pacific Ocean just north of Japan. The Expedition 36 crew members are working in groups today. Right now, Commander Pavel Vinogradov and Flight Engineer Chris Cassidy are isolated in the Poisk module and their Soyuz spacecraft. Flight Engineers Luca Parmitano and Karen Nyberg are isolated in the entire U.S. segment of the space station, plus the Zarya and Rasyet modules. And Flight Engineers Fyodor Yurchikhin and Alexander Mazurkin are in the final stages of preparation for today's spacewalk. They are now in the last couple of minutes of the pre-breathe inside their suits, inside the partially depressed Pirs docking compartment, which serves as the airlock for Russian spacewalks on the space station. The hatch to the Pirs module is scheduled to open at 6:40 Houston time this morning to begin a spacewalk that's scheduled to last just a little bit over 5.5 hours. During that time, the spacewalkers will remove a laser communications experiment from a work platform on the starboard side of the Zvezda module. They will install an EVA workstation and biaxial pointing platform on that same spot on Zvezda. They'll inspect docking communication system antennas, move a foot restraint from the port side of Zvezda's transfer compartment to the new EVA workstation. They'll also be taking surface samples from an EV hatch on the Poisk module and photographing some exposure experiments and cables that were installed on Poisk last week. And finally, installing a couple of gap spanners on the port side of the Zvezda module to assist future spacewalkers in their translation around the outside of the spacecraft. A Russian spacewalk is, of course, being controlled from the Russian Mission Control Center. That's located in the town of Koryolov, just outside of Moscow. And here's a look at the Russian Flight Control Room, the Russian Mission Control Center. Teams are on duty there, working with Yurchikhin and Mazurkin in the Pirs docking compartment right now. The EVA is being monitored here at the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. This is a live view in Ficker 1, as it's known. And the teams are in the middle of a handover right now from the Orbit 1 team to the oncoming Orbit 2 team. The team that will be working during the spacewalk today is led by Flight Director Emily Nelson. And to her right will be the spacecraft communicator for the shift, not in the chair right now. That's Canadian astronaut David Saint-Jacques. Spacecraft communicator on console right now is the Japanese astronaut Takuya Onishi. And seated behind the flight director's console will be today the EVA officer, Ernie Bell. They'll be keeping track of things and keeping the team here in Houston advised of what's going on. And of course, the real control of the spacewalk is going on from the Russian Mission Control Center.
Okay, the SO is open, pressure decreasing, copy.
Today is the 173rd spacewalk for the assembly and maintenance of the International Space Station. Of those 173, it is the 145th that has originated from within the station itself. The others, of course, were from space shuttles. And it is the fifth spacewalk for Expedition 36 so far this year. And there are, in fact, two more spacewalks, two more Russian spacewalks that are on the schedule for later on in the year.
Hey, Luca, we copied most of that. Would you mind repeating your last sentence?
Today's spacewalk is the 8th in the career of Fyodor Yurchikhin, and it is the 3rd for Alexander Mazurkin. All three of them, of course, on this flight. The most recent station spacewalk was with these same two astronauts just last week, last Friday. Those two were outside to install some gap spanners between the Poisk and Zarya modules and from Poisk to Zvezda. They routed power and Ethernet cables from the Russian segment back to the U.S. segment of the station for future support of a new Russian laboratory module, and they installed some exposure experiment panels on the outside of Poisk. Last Friday's spacewalk ran 7 hours and 29 minutes and was the longest ever spacewalk in Russian spacewalking history. Today's EVA scheduled to run about 5 hours and 40 minutes. The last American spacewalk from the space station was on Expedition 36. That was by Chris Cassidy and Luca Parmitano back on July the 16th.
And then we'll close the close.
At this point, all the U.S. EVAs are on hold pending the investigation into the water leak inside Parmitano's spacesuit last month. The next Russian spacewalk on the schedule is targeted for later in expedition in November of this year by cosmonauts Oleg Kotov and Sergei Ryazanskiy, who, among other things, will be outside continuing the Olympic torch relay, as well as a number of other operational tasks on the outside of the station. For today's spacewalk, both crew members will be looking essentially identical. They're both going outside wearing Orlan spacesuits that have blue stripes on them. They will both be wearing U.S. spacewalk helmet cameras.
Injector.
Yurchikin's helmet camera will have the identifying mark as being unit number 20. Mazurkin's helmet camera will show the identifying mark as being number 17. Yurchikin has switched spacesuits from the spacewalks earlier in the mission. He switched from suit number 5 to suit number 4 so that the crews could do some routine maintenance on the suit that he had been wearing on the previous spacewalks. The suit he's wearing today has been used 8 times before. Mazurkin's spacesuit has been used 9 times before. That, by the way, is Mazurkin's spacesuit is Orlan spacesuit number 6. Mazurkin is making the 3rd spacewalk of his career today. Both the previous ones have come on this flight, and in fact, both with Fyodor Yurchikin. The two went outside in late June to replace a fluid flow control panel on the Zarya module, install more hardware for the power cables running to the future Russian laboratory module, and to swap out some science experiments. And as mentioned, last week they went outside to route some power and Ethernet cables along the Zarya module for future support of the multipurpose laboratory module, Nauka, and install some exposure experiments as well. Yurchikin has a more extensive EVA background. He's made the 2 spacewalks for a total of just over 14 hours with Mazurkin. But he's made over 30 more hours of spacewalks, a total of just shy of 46 hours of experience for Yurchikin. Going back to Expedition 15 in 2007, he made 2 spacewalks in Russian suits with Oleg Kotov, and 1 in a U.S. spacesuit with accompanied by Sonny Williams. On Expedition 24 in 2010, he made 1 spacewalk with Mikhail Kornienko,
Pressure reading, please.
and on the same flight, but on Expedition 25 in November of 2010, he made a 6.5-hour EVA with Oleg Skripochka.
Inaudible.
So for Fyodor Yurchikin today, it is his 8th time to go outside. Alexander Mazurkin making his 3rd spacewalk of his career today.
O2 open EVA message on BSS at the pressure in the DC of 20 millimeters. Are you expecting that? Expecting the 20 millimeter mark to be passed? Concur? That message came up. What's the message, Sas? At the pressure of 20 millimeters, BSS 202, open valve, open EVA. I'm not seeing the message. What's the DC-1 pressure reading right now? Better. 65 and decreasing. Copy. Past the 50 millimeter mark.
Принято. Давление скафандра.
Copy. And what's the in-suit pressure? 038.
Принято. Хорошо.
Copy. Very good.
Crews are moving right along with the preparations. Yurchikhin and Mazurkin are inside their Orlan suits, inside the Piers docking compartment with the hatch closed. The hatch back into the service module, into Zvezda. The pressure inside Piers, which is also known as the DC-1. You may hear that reference. Pressure now down to about 50 millimeters of mercury.
Past the 40 millimeter.
Vinogradov and Cassidy, as we can see, they're isolated now in their Soyuz spacecraft and the adjoining Poisk module. The transfer compartment of the Zvezda module, the spherical section that is between Piers and Poisk, is kept evacuated, and so the Zvezda module is unoccupied as well. But the hatch at the forward end of Zvezda into the aft end of Zarya is also closed to isolate Zvezda. Parmitano and Nyberg, therefore, have the run of the rest of the ship, which gives them access to their Soyuz spacecraft, Soyuz 35, which is at the aft end of the Rassvet module. Vinogradov and Cassidy have very few options to occupy their time during the day-to-day. They have brought wireless laptop computers in with them to get some work done in that fashion. Parmitano and Nyberg are scheduled to be doing science during the day-to-day. Karen Nyberg is going to be working on the in-space experiment. Luca Parmitano is going to be doing some maintenance work on the Emmings swing bed experiment. Of course, they will be also monitoring the activities of their crewmates, Yurchikhin and Mazurkin, who are scheduled to be spending a little over 5.5 hours outside on a spacewalk that is still on course to begin at the scheduled time of 6:40 a.m. Central Time today. Preparations for the spacewalk, in fact, began with the conclusion of last Friday's EVA. Over the weekend, the crew members dried out the Orlan suits that they wore and closed out the systems. On Sunday, they installed replacement suit elements for the upcoming activity. On Monday, the two crew members reviewed a preliminary version of the timeline of today's activities. They also installed U.S. hardware onto the suits, rounded up their tools, and reviewed the translation paths, the different work zones in which they'll be working.
Confirming O2 open EVA on the business. All right.
On Tuesday, they conducted some leak checks on the Orlan suits, communication checks, recharged the batteries, and they checked out the suit number 4, the suit that Fyodor Yurchikhin is switching into, resized it and did a fit check for him. And Wednesday, yesterday, they did a thorough review of the timeline for today's spacewalk. And then they shifted their sleep just a bit. The Russian crew members went to bed about 1:30 Houston time yesterday afternoon, rather than the usual 4:30 p.m. Bedtime. They got their wake-up call at 10 o'clock Houston time last night. The 3 U.S. crew members stayed on the regular schedule, and they got their wake-up call at 1 a.m. today. Spacewalkers started their preparations just a little after midnight this morning, including some systems checks on their suits and final inspections of them.
Принято.
Copy.
And they began suiting up at 3:55 this morning. Just after 4 o'clock, 4:10, Commander Pavel Vinogradov started removing the air ducting that goes into the Pirs module and closed the hatch there. By 4:25, Vinogradov and Cassidy had withdrawn into the Poisk and Soyuz and closed that hatch as the depressurization of the Pirs module gets started. Pressure in Pirs now is reading less than 20 millimeters of mercury.
13 millimeters.
Принято.
Copy.
Принято.
Moving down the depressurization timeline, the spacewalkers are now in a period known as the final leak check in the Pirs module. After that, they will transition their suits to autonomous power. And once that's all confirmed, they will open the hatch to the exterior to start today's spacewalk. For a Russian spacewalk, the official start is marked at the opening of the hatch. The official conclusion of the spacewalk later on today will be marked by the closing of the hatch. The Russian spacewalk, well, we're figuring its official duration lasts from hatch opening to hatch closing.
KSD 2 is in the closed position. Closing KSD SO. Pressure relief valve KSD SO is in the closed position. And the pressure in the DC1, the pressure in DC1 is 11 millimeters.
Принято. И 5 минут контроля герметичности.
Copy. And performing a leak check, setting the timer for 5 minutes. Copy that. Inaudible.
When the door opens, now in less than half an hour, the two spacewalkers will exit the Pirs compartment, and they will be translating to a work site on the starboard side of the Zvezda module, carrying with them an EVA workstation and a biaxial pointing platform that will be attached to, that is already attached to it, as well as covers for the laser communications system experiment that is currently installed at the work site. That communications experiment system was installed 2 years ago in August of 2011 during a spacewalk on Expedition 28 by cosmonauts Sergei Volkov and Alexander Samokhutyaev. That hardware, the SLS laser communications system, rests on what is known as a universal work platform that is attached to the starboard side of the Zvezda. There is a universal work platform on the port side as well. The experiment has concluded now. This hardware is going to be removed and brought inside today, and will later be discarded on the Progress vehicle. In its place will be installed the combined EVA workstation and biaxial pointing platform, both of which were delivered to the space station on the most recent Soyuz vehicle in July of this year. The EVA workstation is a 3 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot roughly, and 54-pound apparatus. The biaxial pointing platform is also about 3 by 2 by 2. It weighs 103 pounds. The two components installed together as they are about just a little over 6 feet in length. The EVA workstation is going to be attached to that universal pointing platform with the biaxial pointing platform attached to it. Later this year, an optical telescope system high-resolution camera is going to be installed on the pointing platform. A accompanying medium-resolution camera is going to be installed on the universal work platform itself. Both of those components are not at the station yet. They're due to arrive on the next Progress vehicle coming to the station, 53P, which is due in November. And then they will both be installed during a spacewalk that is currently scheduled in December.
Three minutes on the timer.
Yurchagin and Mazurkin will move out to the workstation with the new hardware plus some protective covers for the laser communication system experiment, which is also known by its Russian acronym BTLS. When they get there, they will unlock and remove the BTLS and temporarily stow it there at the site after they have covered it with the protective covers. They'll then install the new EVA workstation and pointing platform together, lock it in place, and connect 10 cables to provide power and telemetry to that worksite.
Inaudible.
And then at that point, with their hardware temporarily stowed, the two spacewalkers will translate to the aft end of the Zvezda module, where they are headed to inspect some antennas. They're known as wall antennas, WAL. These are part of a system that provides part of what is known as the proximity communications equipment. That is the communication system that's used in docking of the automated transfer vehicle, the European Space Agency's cargo ship, currently attached to the aft end of the station, aft end of Zvezda. There are 3 wall antennas at the aft end. There are 3 others that are in the circumference around the front end of Zvezda. And today the crew members are going to take a look at all 6 of those antennas and the covers that are on them. They're going to do that because earlier this week, on Monday, a wall antenna cover was noticed floating free. It's a video shot by the crew members on board. You can see that antenna was first noticed aft of the Progress vehicle that's attached to the Piers docking compartment. At this point, it's frankly not known which of the antennas lost its cover. So the spacewalkers today are heading out to identify where cover's missing, and to check out the remaining covers, make sure that they are secure and that no more of them are going to float away. So after they have attached the new hardware in place, they will go to the aft end of Zvezda and inspect the 3 antennas and covers that are at that location. Then they'll come back and pick up the BTLS and move it back toward the Piers module, and will temporarily stow it on the EVA ladder that's just outside the open hatch of Piers. At that point, Yurchagin and Mazurkin will split up to conduct a number of tasks. For Yurchagin, he will first move to inspect the other 3 wall antennas that will be there in the neighborhood near the forward end of Zvezda. He'll do that on his way to the port side of the Zvezda transfer compartment, where he's going to retrieve a foot restraint that's attached there and move it back to stow it at the new EVA workstation that had just been installed. While he's doing all of those things, Mazurkin will translate to the Poisk module. First, he will take some photographs of a Russian exposure experiment and associated cables that the 2 crew members installed on the Poisk module last week.
Bottom line voltage reading.
And then while he's there, he will use the Test 1 experiment hardware to take a surface sample at the Poisk module's EV2 hatch. That's an experiment that's looking into the buildup of particles on the exterior of the station. Once he's finished with that, he will move over to the port side of Zvezda to install some gap spanners, temporary handrails that spacewalkers of the future will use to move around in that area.
Copy.
At that point, the 2 spacewalkers should meet back up again at the Piers airlock. They'll bring the BTLS back inside Piers with them, close the hatch, and complete today's 5.5-hour spacewalk.
Electrical umbilicals are disconnected.
Принято.
Copy.
Электроразъемы закрыли все.
Electrical connectors are covered with MLI.
Да.
Confirming? Confirming?
Хорошо. Дальше идем.
Okay, good. Moving on to disconnecting fluid umbilicals from the suit. In work.
Listening to interpretation of the communications between spacewalkers Fyodor Yurchikhin and Alexander Mazurkin inside the Pirs module, talking with the folks here at the Russian Flight Control Room in Koryolov.
VO2 prime.
Now just a few minutes away from the beginning of today's spacewalk, Russian spacewalk number 35.
Is VO2 prime. And 29.3 is
scheduled to begin at 6:40 Houston time this morning. And by the book, by the timeline, to run 5 hours and 39 minutes. Today's the 8th spacewalk for Fyodor Yurchikhin, the 3rd for Alexander Mazurkin, taking place on the 101st day of Expedition 31. It's Mazurkin's 147th day in space on this flight, since he launched along with Pavel Vinogradov and Chris Cassidy back in late March. The 3 crew members who arrived in the Soyuz spacecraft together are scheduled to depart the station in 3 weeks. They're headed home September 11th for a landing in Kazakhstan. It is Fyodor Yurchikhin's 86th day in space, since he commanded the Soyuz vehicle that brought himself, Luca Parmitano, and Karen Nyberg to the station in late May. These 3 crew members will stay at the station in November, when Vinogradov and his crew leave in a few weeks. Expedition 37 will begin with Yurchikhin as its commander, and will last until they come home from the station in November.
And 138. Transmit button is released. VSS to auto close. Auto close. VSS, auto close. How copy, copy, very good. And the valves on the suit are covered with the MLI. Flaps, right. Okay. We'll proceed our operations further. Good luck, guys. And now I'm handing the mic to Sergey. We'll meet again during the reprise. Okay. Copy that, and thank you very much. I'm ready to receive. Tether, okay? Tether? Tether? Yes. Yes, hello. Greetings.
Федор, Саша.
Tether, Sasha?
Да.
Yes, go ahead, we'll copy you.
Привет.
Stand by, Sergey. Hello, guys.
Привет.
Hello.
Ну чего, начинаем?
Okay, shall we start? Are you ready?
Нет.
No.
Сейчас, Сергей.
Stand by, Sergey. Just 1 second. Standing by.
От вас доклада.
Standing by for your report. Okay. Okay, I'm ready.
Сереж, ну ты про нас тоже не забывай. Мы тоже уже давно готовы.
Sergey, don't forget about us. We are ready, and we have been for a while. Okay, everything is great. Now we're ready, Sergey.
Принято.
Copy?
Ну, давление в отсеке.
What's the pressure in the compartment? 0.11.
Приступаем к открытию выходного люка.
Sasha, let's proceed with the EVA hatch opening.
Хорошо, выполняем.
Copy. It's in work. Opening EVA hatch.
Итак, барашки все.
Okay, I inspected all wing nuts. They're all untightened to the hard stop. The key is in operations position. Checking the locks. They're facing each other. Copy. Rotating for opening. Okay, the pins are out.
Хорошо.
Very good. Inaudible. Okay. Release it and hold. Then.
Федор, давление.
Fedor, give me the pressure.
Федор, давление.
Stand by. Looking. Pressure is dropping 8 millimeters.
Принято.
Copy.
Принято.
5 millimeters.
Принято.
Copy.
Принято.
4 millimeters.
Принято.
Copy.
Принято.
3 millimeters.
Принято.
Copy.
Саш, попробуй. Принято.
Sasha, try.
Саш, попробуй.
Да, пробую.
I'm trying.
Федор Николаевич, вы будете готовы?
Will you be ready to
Ты открыл уже?
receive Fedor? Yes. Did you open it? I'm opening it as we speak. Okay, like this. Hold on, Sasha. Okay, now I'm ready.
Саш, когда откроешь, скажи.
Sasha, let me know when you'll open it.
А вы еще не видите?
Are you receiving the image?
Картинки
Yes.
пока нету.
No, not yet.
Не работает камера.
And your camera is not working. Copy.
И у Федора, и у тебя тоже.
Fedor, neither does yours so far.
Ну,
Yes. Understood. Okay.
готово.
Ready?
Откроем люк, потом
Yes.
камерами, да.
Let us open the hatch. Yes, you're right. I'll go ahead and open the hatch, and then we'll take care of the cameras. Okay, I've secured it.
Николаевич,
Fedor Nikolaevich,
смотрите, а вот там
look,
В2, В3.
the 1, 2, and 3, are they all off? Let me double check. It's on, and I'm looking at the camera. Everything is on.
Все три выключены.
All,
Передача отжата.
all 3 now are off,
Сейчас.
and the transmission is released. Okay, we are proceeding with the D-ring installation. Copy.
О, красава.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm ready to get it. Inaudible. Sasha, let's... Okay, just 1 second. Okay? From your side? Okay. Is everything okay? Are you ready? Yes. Very good. And stop. It's ready? Okay. Mine is in place. It's in here. Okay, it's installed. Okay, the ring is installed on both sides. Everything's fine. Okay, copy. Okay, let's start egression slowly but surely. And after turning on the sublimators, we'll go back to cameras and see what's going on. Okay. But what can we do about it? They are activated. Well, we are not receiving images from either of them. Am I go to turn on the sublimator? Stand by 1, Fyodor. Standing by. EV2 is ready to egress. Sasha, you go to egress.